We have some great news in the month of January, and it's not that Donald Trump is the president, because even though he was confirmed by Kamala Harris, ironically, we still got 2 weeks to wait on that. But Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who is the vanilla Canadian Obama, ripoff really, resigned. And that's brilliant because now this actually ties into a multitude of different factors. Not only that, again, Canada has been run into the ground worse than California. This guy is a dollar store Gavin Newsom. Think about that and let it sink in. Now, getting to this other topic, though, we do have the prospect of Trump doing some Monroe Doctrine and actually expanding the borders of the United States. He's outright saying he wants to annex Canada into the 51st state, and he wants to buy Greenland, which is crazy. If you guys are curious as to why Trudeau's resigning, as obviously that doesn't really make sense if you're president or prime minister to give up that much clout and power. Well, the reason is because they're going to have an election any month now, I think maybe March of this year, where if you look at the polling, you thought Trump had a landslide when he beat Kamala by 2 points. You look here, Pierre Poilievre, who's like the Mitt Romney kind of like milquetoast Republican light conservative in Canada, he's running against Trudeau. And apparently he's at 44.2%, which in a election where there's like four prominent parties is actually extremely high. And Liberal Party leader, again, Justin Trudeau, up until recently, was polling at 20.1%. So he's losing the popular vote by 24, which is nuts. I mean, this is like more than even Reagan's landslide. When Reagan won in a landslide, it wasn't like he won by 20 points, not even close. Maybe closer to 10, not 20. So for Canada to flip, and just a reminder, by the way, Trudeau's been in power for about 10 years. He's been reelected three separate times, I believe. So, three separate times, people wanted him in power, which is an indictment on the Canadian people, frankly. Maybe we shouldn't admit them into the union just off of that basis. But I also wanted to touch upon the fact that, again, yes, this guy won multiple times, more than Obama even. And to fall off like this is really a testament to the liberal policies that have really been tanking the Western hemisphere sort of countries. I mean, when we're talking about Canada, America, like in California, when we're talking about the border, when we're talking about Western Europe and how it's decaying, all the same symptoms here of liberal, just stupid policy. And to elaborate further, we have Jagmeet Singh, which sounds like a Canadian, new Democrat party leader, okay? He's polling at about Trudeau's numbers. Now, the way that it typically works, as recently as even like 4 years ago, Trudeau would be polling, let's say at 40, the conservative, let's say at 37, Jagmeet Singh at 15, 11%, something like that. But apparently, the New Democrats are getting a bigger chunk, despite the fact that New Democrats, by the way, are to the left of Bernie Sanders by lot. I mean, it is actually really, really nasty what the New Democrats believe. And then we have the Bloc Québécois, which is ostensibly a separatist faction that mainly is catering to the issue of Quebec leaving Canada. So now this is a very cool sort of simulation that we're watching here. So there's polling in Canadian politics, believe it or not. And apparently the Conservatives have a 98% chance of winning a majority. And the odds of Trudeau's Liberals of winning a majority at this point is less than a single percentage point. Sorry. All right. So anyway, alarm aside, we are looking at a situation where Trudeau really had no choice because, they say it's always better to know rather than to not have known and then be guessing. But in this case, you do want to keep guessing because I'm 99.9% sure. In fact, if I had a 401k, I would bet my house on it and everything that Trudeau would lose this election to Poilievre. Yet he is saying, oh, well, I'm going to duck out a few months prior so that technically he'll be like, well, I could have won. So he'll be the Biden of 2025 where he's like, well, Kamala really fumbled it. Yeah, no, I totally would have won. And it's like, dog, you were cooked from the start. So Donald Trump has really been loving this development in Canada. He's really feeling himself getting a second win in politics where he seems like he has this mandate, which I believe in too. And so he's exercising a lot more of his power than you would have expected prior to even being inaugurated, like he will be in 13 days, and I'll be there, by the way. Let me know if you're going to be in DC chat. Anyways, he has a statement where he says, many people in Canada love being the 51st state. The United States can no longer suffer the massive trade deficits and subsidies that Canada needs to stay afloat. Justin Trudeau knew this and resigned. If Canada merged with the US, there would be no tariffs. Taxes would go way down, and they would be totally secure from the threat of the Russian and Chinese ships that are constantly surrounding them. Together, what a great nation it would be. So this is a very, very touchy subject. Only because it's kind of cool. The autistic Hearts of Iron 4 player in me, yeah, of course, annex Canada, increase our economy by like 10% or something. That's kind of cool. But to be honest, they have so many issues. It's like a baggage concern at that point. Okay, I mean, it's kind of like signing up a running back that just tore his ACL. It's like he's gonna be in the hospital for a year. Okay, so to like really rehabilitate the Canadian economy would be a huge problem. Canada, and again, you guys probably don't know about this, but I'm from Michigan originally, so I know a little more than usual. And if you look at Canadian politics, they are, and I'm not even crapping you, Canada is like California 10 years from now. Like, believe that, because think about it. California is like mainstream America, but 10 years more woke, more progressive, right? Okay, now take that and add another 10 years, and that's Canada. So if you took America under Biden and then you accelerated all the bad things until like 2040, that would be what Canada is today. I mean, it's to the point in Canada where all the conservatives are milquetoast as hell. I mean, Mitt Romney would look like a hegemon, a real baron of conservatism in comparison. But then also too, they have an immigration problem even worse than ours, because think about it, at least with Mexicans, or, and again, that's my people too, but at least you have a 2,000-mile border, well, where like you can't really reasonably defend all of it. Whereas in Canada, they're explicitly letting in legal immigrants from India, Khalistan, wherever the hell that is, Bangladesh or whatever. And it's to the point now, chat, that their population is dying. Like the white people, the French people, they're all dying out, right? Natives and all that. Okay, but the explosion in population in Canada as of the last 20 years has been almost all Indian and Chinese immigration. It's to the point where, you know how there's maybe 10, 20% of New York City is black and that's normal? Okay, now imagine if it were like 40% Indian in Toronto, or 60% Chinese in Vancouver. I mean, it's a very disconcerting thing for most normal people, just the kind of juxtaposition really in the culture shock. But Trump seemingly unironically wants to add Canada in its entirety. Now, I don't really want this to be the case. Frankly, what I would want is for us to, bludgeon them, bend them back over, and just say like, hey, we're gonna get all these advantages in trade, all this tariff sort of thing. Yeah, totally do that. Bend them and break them, who cares? But also, let's not annex a ton of liberals. And that's the other thing. You might think, well, Canadians, it's a mostly white country, it's like vaguely American. Okay, I get that, but still, they're more liberal than us. And I'll tell you what, when it comes down to it, okay, just because the Conservative Party is winning in a landslide is not a prognosis as to how conservative the society is. Think of the vote less of a Republican or conservative backlash against the Liberals, but kind of just like an apathy towards Trudeau and stuff like this. And so, to be clear, Trump would not win in Canada. Okay, like generally speaking, let's say 2019, 2020, before Trudeau tanked his own stock, had Trump somehow magically ran for prime minister in Canada, it would have not have worked out so well for him, because again, they're all liberal. Almost all of them. I mean, the fact they even have a semi-communist party with 20% support that's equidistant to the moderate centrist liberal party is in and of itself an indictment on the populace, okay? And speaking of immigrants, think about all the, what would it be, like 10 million Indian immigrants? I mean, we're making a hay on Twitter over like 100,000 H-1B visas. God forbid 100 times that overnight become citizens of America or something approximating that. It would be a shit. And honestly, besides that awful aspect, like I said, most provinces in Canada, and there's like what, like 13, those are mostly, again, gonna vote Democrat. And so you'd imagine it'd be like two senators from like the Ontario, two British Columbian Democrat senators. It'd be a complete crapshoot. And then we would have to deal with a Bloc Québécois, and then they want to leave or something. It'd be awful. And maybe in the compromise for Trump is you annex Greenland, fair enough, and you annex maybe Alberta, like the most conservative border state that has a ton of oil. And then we say, suffer Canada, you lose your oil. They want to be green, they can be green. No oil for you, more for me. Now, in this last portion of the video, we're going to look at some other details that are pretty interesting. So, for example, just as a snapshot, Justin Trudeau's peak popularity was 65%, which again is higher than Obama's ever was, I'm pretty sure. And now they're at 22% approval, which is worse than George Bush's approval in the midst of the 2008 recession, even during Afghanistan, Iraq, and all that garbage. He was still a lot more popular than Justin Trudeau. That's insane. I also wanted to touch on the backlash against what Trump has been saying about Canada. Like I said before, Trump wants to annex the entire thing somehow, which is crazy. Trudeau says to Trump on the annexation plans, though, not a snowball's chance in hell. And from a Canadian, those are fighting words, okay? Now, how much leverage does Trudeau have in the situation? It's exactly zilch. Now, he is going to be a shadow head or whatever you call it, figurehead leader until March. Not like anything's going to get better in Canada until then. But also keep in mind that Pierre Poilievre, who's the guy who will almost definitely be the next leader of Canada, said also that he's not going to let America annex Canada, which, to be fair, I respect that, because how the hell are you going to say, vote for me, Canada, but then also I'm going to let Trump like just completely take us over? Like, that's like, even if, you know, I bet you the conservative leader respects the hustle from Trump, but still, it's like, dude, are you kidding me? It's like when Kanye West went to Trump in Mar-a-Lago 2 years ago and said, "Hey Donald, I would love for you to be my vice president." And Trump's like, "Dude, who the hell are you?" It's like, oh god. Now here's where the thumb screws are currently. Trump said in an event, I think today at Mar-a-Lago even, he said, "We're going to use economic force on Canada insofar as annexation is concerned," which is interesting because, and I'll tell you why this matters. So Canada, 1/3 of their economy, I'm pretty sure, is through exporting goods to America, whereas our economy is maybe, I don't know, 5% dependent on Canada or something even smaller than that. So basically what I'm saying here is that we could completely like maim the Canadians economically, like completely blow off their torso in exchange for us to get a paper cut economically. So Trump is basically saying, we're going to tariff you 25%, which again would be like cutting a quarter of a third. So it'd be like if you reduce the GDP of Canada by about 8%. And so that's really like stagnating their economy like 5 years in retrograde. And their economy is already worse than ours, and ours sucks too. So, I mean, that's just impressive to me because we totally have them by the balls here. We just do. There's no leverage they have. I don't know how Trump would screw this up of annexing Canada. I mean, it's such an audacious goal, but we matter of factually have the military advantage. Trump has the mandate, his popularity now. And three, obviously the economic leverage we have is like basically insane. So I mean, it's just incredible. Now, this is what the conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said verbatim to Trump. He said, "We are a great and independent country." He wrote, noting that Canada supplies the U.S. billions of high quality and totally reliable energy while buying billions of dollars of U.S. products. Our weak and pathetic NDP liberal government has failed to make these obvious points. So he's kind of kissing the ring to Trump, saying like, "No, we're good. Please don't annex us. Please don't beat us up. No, we actually really like you, dude. And Justin did not suck you off right." That's basically what he's saying here, which is a little emasculating. But that's, again, it's asking a lot to say to a guy who yet is not the president or the prime minister to say, hey, completely just give up your country upon winning. Not going to happen. So Trump is now facing Trudeau, who again is weak, but still is technically the prime minister, who's like, oh, we're not giving up. But again, it means nothing. But also PP, Polyev here, again, still saying no. So the last little tidbit I wanted to add in the video, folks, is exactly this. So we obviously have a no from Trudeau. We have a no from Poilievre. Now, the next runner-up insofar as clout is concerned, I guess he's like Gavin Newsom insofar as he's like the biggest governor. The leader of Ontario, the guy's name, I think it's Doug Ford. I don't know if it was him, but I remember there was a clip of him smoking crack, I'm pretty sure, like 15 years ago. Not joking. No, I'm not joking, by the way. Look it up. Anyway. So he says to Trump, "My message is let's work together. Let's build a stronger trade relationship, not weaken it," said Ford. Now, that's, if again, I'm not the art of the deal writer. Obviously, I'm not a businessman, but I think I understand that they have literally no leverage, bro. It's tough. They're pleading for their lives right now, economically. Now, the premier, which I guess is the name for governor, says we will retaliate hard if the Trump administration follows through on the threats. Okay. Now, also, this is kind of weird. The U.S. relies on Ontario for their electricity. We keep the lights on to 1.5 million homes and businesses in the U.S., he said. So he's basically saying, like, oh, we can cut off the lights to Michigan, which is pretty scummy of him to do. I mean, even Trump's not saying he's going to do that. He'll just make you guys poor and maybe use less electricity, but still. Anyway, he makes a counter offer, which is, again, audacious and stupid, Kanye level of brazy. But look at this. I'll make him a counter offer. How about we buy Alaska and we throw in Minneapolis and Minnesota at the same time, Ford said. So the counter offer is that Canada buys Alaska and they also buy Minnesota, which is like, dude, what the hell? So I mean, this is just I don't even know what to say there. It's a double bluff. Clearly, you guys are broke as hell. You cannot fight us economically or militarily. I think it's time to kiss the ring even more than y'all have already. Also, for the Trudeau fans in chat, none of you exist, hopefully. Safa, okay, I love that Trudeau resigned. You love to see it. I hope the Conservatives in Canada can at least stabilize the disaster they have there and stop immigration, because I do not want all these liberal immigrants becoming our new citizens. So, Trump, I want you to succeed, but maybe on this specific thing, annexing Canada, maybe if you don't give them voting rights, then we're talking. Maybe we're cooking with some gas. Anyways, I'll see y'all on the next one. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want more content like this. Comment down below and I'll read every single one. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Adios.